Hey friends, Stephanie here, and on today's video I'm going to take you guys on a tour, show you what's growing, what are we, mid-September on my aeroponic, hydroponic tower gardens. I don't have my other hydroponic system up and running yet, but I am going to show you guys that, talk about how to replace the grocery store with things like this at a pretty significant level, without having to have a bunch of land to garden and farm on, because I don't. This is my driveway. And I'm going to show you guys the reality of towers at the end of a season. If you're new to gardening, sometimes there can be this false illusion, especially if you're following people like myself who are showing you the amazing side of growing your own food and the towers. You guys get to see my towers when they're super beautiful, but there are times they're not super beautiful, and there are times when I'm waiting things out. There are times when life is busy or I'm just not in the mood and towers look bad and plants die, and everything has its season, and when that season's over, things don't look so great. So I saved quite a few towers for you guys to see that are an absolute hot mess, so I can share with you guys really what that looks like, what is normal. And then on my next video, if you want to subscribe and follow along, I will be cleaning these towers you're going to see that are a hot mess, and I'll show you how to turn them around and what I'm going to do with that, because it can seem super overwhelming. And I get that question a lot. How long do I spend on my towers work-wise? But the work is really not that much. I just need to do a few simple things and get it under control. All right, behind me is one of the hot mess towers, actually out of water. But there is a reason I haven't taken this one apart. It has a spaghetti squash that's still growing, and there is yellow squash that decided to come back. So what'll happen is squash will go through the summer. Some of them will die. It's common to get squash bugs, to get diseases. They just burn out. But then sometimes in my towers, fall comes and it starts to cool off. Some of them will perk back up and start producing food again. And that's what happened on this tower. You can't move squash. So when I go to clean these towers up, I'll be consolidating. I'll take everything out, clean the tower with my pressure washer, and then the plants that are still viable, I will move them into that tower and let them finish off. But things like squash, especially spaghetti squash, or I've got some yellow squash that's been in here all summer, you can't move the roots on those without disturbing the plant so much that it won't survive. So I've really just been waiting those things out. I'm not even feeding this plant at the moment. I'm just giving it water. It doesn't even need food because there's nothing in here I'm really trying to have grow very much longer. We're at the end. But this is the squash plant. We've got some powdery mildew. It is the season for powdery mildew. Some squash bug damage, but we've also got beautiful yellow squash pumping out really well. This one wasn't pollinated. Neither was this one. You are going to run the risk. Oh, and look at this. It is also the season of caterpillars, and there is a little caterpillar hole in here, and there's one up here. They didn't go all the way through, so that's good. We will eat this. I'm using Thuricide this time of year because of caterpillars. You've got a couple things going on in the fall, and I'm going to show you guys my beautiful squash. But when you've got squash this time of year, powdery mildew increases, caterpillars come out. So this is when I'm using Thuricide to spray, or Arbor. Both of those are biological. I'm not doing it a ton, maybe every couple of weeks. I'll just go give a spritz across the things I know they're going to attack. Lack of pollinators. So the pollinators start to die off this time of year, or migrate, or whatever they do. And the pollination can be tricky. So if you're growing squash in the fall, you might want to be hand pollinating, which is what I'll do. So I'm looking at my other tower. Let's finish talking about this one. I'm going to give you guys a close-up look, just talk through some things, and then we'll take a look at my good squash, and I will show you how fast the powdery mildew is coming on and what I'm going to do about that. So like I mentioned, yellow squash, I will trim this one up and keep it going because it's doing really well. Even though we have a lot of powdery mildew, this plant is super healthy, I think. I don't know. We'll see. It's just putting off so much food. I'm terrible at not letting things that are fruiting stay. Everything else, these green beans were left here so I could harvest seeds. So I have seeds that have dried out, and these are hydroponic adapted green bean seeds now. So that was intentional. That was the purpose of leaving that one. I had some basil that I just didn't need. I've already started new basil. That'll all go to the chickens. It's wilted because the water turned off. But this is the Berry's crazy tomato, and it was still fruiting. Tomatoes will come back. I'll rip all that out. Those are done. This is what I was waiting on. But look at that squash. It didn't fertilize all the way, and it got caterpillar holes. So this is all scraps, and we'll all go. I'll harvest the seeds. The rest will go to the chickens, and I'll clean out this tower. This will be consolidated. Let me show you a beautiful tower before we get into any more of the bad stuff. Now, first off, you'll notice all the starts. They're healthy. They're the right size. That's why it's time to start filling up new towers. Here, I have squash. Now, had I used my Tower Garden Journal and done this right, these would have been in early August and would already be producing food at this point. I put them in late. I didn't put them in until, oh man, about 2 weeks ago, but you can see how fast they grew in just 2 weeks. I mean, these were just baby squash plants. These are zucchinis and yellow squash. When you put things in the right season and they're super happy, they will take off. When things are planted in the wrong season, they can be slower and give you some problems. So these have gotten huge. They are starting to flower. Hopefully we will have time to get some food off of them. I may try to move this in the garage and keep it growing. We will see. It's just something I decided to do because I wanted to try and get a last harvest of squash before the winter, and see if I can move them in the garage and keep them. But we've got powdery mildew like crazy. So I will go through, thin all the powdery mildew leaves tonight when I do my chores, and I will spray my special formula on these to prevent powdery mildew. I've shared that multiple times, but if you're not familiar with it, check the description below and you can get that recipe. So like I said, it's just zucchini and yellow squash, and you can see all the flowers. Everything looks so beautiful aside from powdery mildew coming in. On here, I also have my sage. The sage has loved the cooler weather. The parsley, I harvested all of this and let it regrow. I don't typically do that with a lot of food, but lately parsley has been doing really well, and sometimes it's just catching it in the right season. Like I said, when plants are at their ideal temperature and all the things, like the fall, you know, the dead of the summer, things are kind of stressed out. When you grow in the fall, everything's just a little bit happier because we're having warm days, but it is cooler at night. So I cut these and let them regrow, and that worked really well. So I'm just gonna see, I don't know, sometimes food will start to change texture and taste. This is where gardening is not a perfect science. So if I did this in the dead of the summer, it might have been okay, or it could have grown back. I've done it before and they grew back stressed and had, the flavor was off and the texture was off. These are doing amazing. Food like parsley and kale and collards, all of those things taste better when the weather is a little bit cooler, and they just do better overall. So might be why. But these are amazing. So I am cutting and coming again completely with those at least one more time. And we'll just see, you know, gardening is an experiment, and what works one season doesn't the next, and things are always changing, and we have to be willing to try things and change with our plants and adapt as we need to. So more squash. These are vining squash. I have no idea what this is. I don't remember. I don't know why I would have planted a vining squash. Unless this is a cucumber? No, that doesn't look like a cucumber. I don't know why I would have done that. Maybe it was just a mix-up. But there's a zucchini right there. There's not enough time for a vining squash in my area to produce, so I may pull that out and replace it, actually, because that's not going to work out. Is there another one? Yeah, this one too. Okay, I have no idea what I was thinking there. So I'll probably just pull both of those out, and it's not a cucumber. So yeah, we don't need those. Those aren't gonna have time. The sage is doing amazing. Over here we have more sage. Again, doing amazing. I just harvest, you know, at least a third at a time. And just chop it off and it grows back really well. So I've been putting up a bunch of sage. Up here, kale. Kale, I have been lately into, okay, well, let's talk about this. Got a couple of things going on here. So kale, I've been doing these bundles. This is calibration, I think, mix. I'm just finding when I do 4 seeds, anything under like 10 seeds, it's getting really leggy lately. And I don't know why. I'm just getting these long kale stems and very few leaves. So I've switched to doing these bundles, very similar to how I do my baby greens when I'm doing a lot of seeds. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's at least 10 in there, 10 minimum. I probably put 15 seeds, just a pinch. All different varieties. I'm gonna cut this. I'm gonna let it regrow. I'm gonna do that about 3 or 4 times, and then I will put new plants in there. You can do that with kale. Again, I don't often say cut and come again. I like to start over, but I'm actually just having a hard time keeping up with seed starting. I've got this new system I'm gonna focus on. So I'm just gonna cut and come again on these. And we're gonna just see. But we got something else going on here. So I have shared before, if you see this, where there's dark veins and light color, that is a nutrient issue. It's not a pH issue. I don't mess with pH very often in my towers. I just don't find I have to, unless your water is really, really off. pH is usually not the problem, I have found. Like the tower garden nutrients feed the things I grow, and I don't have to worry about that. But this is a nutrient problem. And so what I've done is I've been kind of lazy and busy, and we've launched school and everybody's doing all these different things and we haven't quite figured out our schedule. And I have just come and filled this tank up and not added nutrients. And the kale are not happy about it. Kale are pretty sensitive to lacking nutrients. If there are nutrient deficiency in my tank, I can always tell because of my kale will be the first ones to show signs of it. So it's one of the reasons I like to put little bundles of kale on every tower. It's kind of my gatekeeper to needing to clean things up, because I will often push the boundaries and like fill a tank and say, I'll add nutrients tomorrow. And then a week goes by and the tank goes empty and I fill it up again and forget to add the nutrients. You know, just being real here. Life, mom, busy, right? We've all got things. So yeah, kale will let you know. That's what it looks like. It's hard to see in this camera, but that pale with dark veins. Now, once I add nutrients, this will clean up super quick. It's not a big deal. It fixes within just a couple of days. And it's not a huge deficiency, because if it was, you would see it in the lettuce. But again, the kale are gonna be the first ones to show you there's a problem. Look at how beautiful this lettuce is. No idea what it is, but it's gorgeous. So the other fun things, I'm always interval planting. So I took something out and put some babies in, and the patio baby eggplant. It has been a late blooming eggplant season for me. I'm actually going to be moving all of my eggplant to a clean tower and making them like a priority so I can get some eggplant, because we just have had a terrible eggplant season. Now here's something to note too. This is ripe and it's on its way on the decline. So how do I know that? A super ripe one, all of these are actually. All of them need to be harvested. I can't even show you one that's not, but a one that's, here we go. That is brand new, perfect. You can let that sit on your tower for a couple of days. You see that beautiful shine and glisten? That starts to fade, so it'll start to go dull, and then you'll start to get lightening in the color. Now this one's lighter in the color, but it's because it's just come in and this side's darker. So the dulling is more white. Hopefully you guys can see that. I can't put them together. Let's see, can we put them together? Okay, there we go. That shows you guys. So you see bright purple shiny, dark purple dull going to white. These need to be harvested ASAP. What'll happen is the seeds will start to get really seedy as it makes seeds. So this one needs to be harvested too. I'll come out and harvest all of these tonight. It'll take pressure off of this and it'll allow it to continue to bloom. Patio Baby is an excellent bloomer and will continue to fruit. This is a wasp. These eat pests. So when you see those, they're good. They'll actually eat aphids and things. Parasitic wasp, I think they're called. All right. I don't even want to like talk about this, but let's talk, or my trash pile. We don't have dump service. So that's what it looks like. This one here. Oh, this is good. I need cucumber for dinner. So these are good cucumbers. One of the reasons I was waiting on this tower is I had a few stragglers, but really what I was waiting on, the watermelon aren't gonna make it. It got too cold. I'm actually wearing a sweater. It's cold. So they just didn't make it. I'll do better next year. I learned some things this year. I've never grown watermelon on a tower, and sometimes we fail and have to learn. I am waiting on a few things. This is going to seed, and in my membership site, I'm doing a course on starting seeds in your tower and how to do that well, so it's possible without things taking over. So I had this producing seeds. I have some strawberries I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with yet. Still processing that. And then I was waiting on this guy right here, which is making seeds. So this cucumber, green, as they start to turn white, they're starting to become more mature. And then you need them to become yellow, almost like fully yellow, in order to have mature seeds to plant. Could you plant seeds out of this? Yes, but ideally you're going for, but your success rate can be lower. You're going for a fully mature yellow. Oh, sorry, he scared me. There's a spider on there. Fully mature, this will even turn more yellow. It's starting to on this side, and then those are amazing seeds to harvest. Again, hydroponic adapted seeds. I'll talk more about that in my seed growing your own seeds course. But hydroponic adapted seeds that have been grown on your hydroponic system and in your area are going to give you better food. It's why when you have volunteers that come up, like I have volunteer plants around my chicken coop, they do amazing because they've just adapted to the environment. The mother plant did all the work of getting them used to it and then created a seed just a little bit more ideal for your climate and your growing conditions, and that repeats. That's why volunteers tend to be the best plants that you will have in your garden. Oh, did that break? Okay, well, that one broke off. That one is totally fine though, and it actually will continue to ripe off the vine. I'll just let it sit and it'll turn yellow. So that's cucumbers and how you get cucumber seeds. So that's all I was waiting on here. There's some endive up here, and there are some chives, and I harvested some parsley. I cut it and I'm letting those regrow, but not in this tower. This will get cleaned, and then the things I want to keep, like the endive and the parsley, the strawberries, those will get moved to a clean tower tonight, hopefully. Lids are off. It's because I've stopped feeding them nutrients and I'm just giving them water. And that's just my sign, like, so I know what's going on, and keep the lid off. That way, if I decide I want to give them nutrients, I can. These are not getting nutrients. They're getting consolidated. But we have yellow squash. We have squash bugs. Do you see those? Yep, so something to keep an eye out for. Squash bugs are still going strong, but there's some yellow squash on here. A little bit of usable basil that I'm actually going to make some pesto with. My stinging nettle. This I plan to cut back and break apart and start a new start off of this current plant. I'll show that in a video if you guys are interested. Some more squash down here. These are in pretty good condition. So I may, and this tower is not that dirty. So what I'll probably do, and again, I'll make a video on the turnover process. This has oregano and sweet marjoram in them. I'm gonna move those to a different tower. One that I know will go into the garage because those are plants I want to keep growing. I may make this tower the tower of things that are just gonna burn out. or grow outside until winter, and then the whole tower won't go inside. It'll just be done for the season until next year. Because I've got 2 decent squash, I'm going to clean them up, prune them heavily, put my powdery mildew spray on them, and then I'm going to consolidate and take the other things like maybe the eggplants and put them in here, because those are not going to go in the garage and grow. The majority of them, the patio baby will, but the rest won't. And so that gives me a tower for kind of those last minute, hopefully we can get some things out of it, crops. There is an eggplant on here already, and it's making fruit. So there's that. But again, the eggplant, not good. Last year was an amazing eggplant season and not great for cucumbers. This year it's been amazing for cucumbers, not for eggplant. All things the same. That's gardening. We may think everything's the same, and we may do everything right, and everything we did last year that worked, and it doesn't work the next year, because whatever is different, and the temperatures or whatever it is just different, and the plants don't like it. Okay, this is a beautiful tower. This one, again, I kind of screwed up, and actually now I know those are cucumbers, those vines, so I'll probably leave them, because this is all cucumbers, and that makes sense. I would have gotten them mixed up. These are bush cucumbers, so they should produce very quickly. There's some powdery mildew I need to address, so I will prune these and spray these later. Coming in pretty hot with these, so I don't know how much of a harvest I'll get. In my area, these should have been put in early August, mid-August at the latest. I got these in September with the squash. Now you can see how fast they're growing, so they are happy. But we'll just have to see how they can handle, because they're not going to like cold temperatures. I've got dill doing amazing. Up here are my beautiful purple lady bok choys. I've got some gorgeous kale, those little bundles. That one I didn't get as much of. That one's only 2 plants. There's some spinach. Oh, that's interesting. So I've got some spinach down here doing really well. Spinach is a little tricky, but it is nice if you nail the timing. Just, you gotta get it when it wants to grow, which would be right now in my area. Temps below 50 at night, still warm in the day. That's when spinach is gonna thrive. We've got purple lady bok choys, more cucumbers, more kale, another one of those lettuce. Few lettuces. I don't remember what variety. Same one as over there. Beautiful, whatever it is. Gorgeous. This is what a beautiful young tower looks like. Not one of these messy towers over here. All right, this tower. First off, let's talk about our starts. I have baby cauliflower and heavily seeded arugula and some failures to germinate, and turnips, peas, lots of peas, endive, kohlrabies, collards, more peas. These all need to go in. These are all endive. The chickens got a hold of them, but they're not endive. My gosh. Ebook cabbage and Napa cabbage. The chickens got into them and nibbled things, but they're fine. So those will all go into the new towers. And then this tower is green beans. This one, again, started a little late. I could have started early August and I'd be eating green beans right now, but you can see they're about to pop and bloom a ton. I will definitely get a crop off of these before winter. And then these are going to be my green beans that I grow indoors all winter. And so a little hack is if you're going from outside to inside, and someone said, doesn't that increase your pest risk? Yes, it does. If you're growing outside and then you bring your towers in, you may bring in aphids with them. If you're only growing through the winter, I just deal with the aphids through the winter. It's not a big deal. I'm going to talk about that in another video. I've been using something that's really working well. Actually, I'll talk about it on this one, because I'm going to show you guys my indoor tower that did have aphids, and I've gotten it under control. I don't know if it's a fluke, but it's working right now. But I just deal with them because I like to grow outdoors. I don't like to grow indoors full time, except for a few things, which I will show you guys in the garage. So these I have found, if I start my green beans indoors in the winter, then they're gonna be really slow and they don't get as bushy. And if they're not as bushy, they don't put off as many green beans. So if I can get them nice and healthy and bushy outside and then put them in the garage, then we're off to a good start, and they adapt pretty well to changing environments, and I'll have green beans, which is important for me for my diet. So that's what's going on here. It's all green beans, every plant. Yep, the whole tower is green beans. I actually have limited time before I have to go pick up children. This is my pepper tower that is growing indoors. It's doing amazing. The water cut off a few times. I had a huge aphid problem for a moment. So I decided to give them a haircut. These are over a year old. Pepper plants can live for up to 6 years. So I've been running an experiment on that. Like, how often do you need to manage the roots? Do we need to manage the roots? I decided these had done a good job at producing, and they went through so much stress that I just gave everything a huge haircut, and now it's growing back and we're blooming. We're doing really well. So there are some leaves still that I just didn't get the first time that could use a little tidying up. But overall, all the new growth has come back really well. I just noticed this does have a few aphids. I've been doing one of these spray bottles, which is 32 ounce, and I've been using doTERRA's On Guard foaming hand soap. It was in our camper, a couple of tablespoons, and spraying that, and that got them under control. I was doing it once a week. I haven't done it in a while, and I'm noticing a few aphids here. So tonight when I do my chores, I'm gonna just keep doing this. This is way cheaper than the arbor and the garlic barrier I was using. I don't like using that stuff. I don't like having to buy that stuff. And then another one of my customers in my membership site, it wasn't working for her anymore, and the company said they can become immune to it. So this seems to be working. So I'm going with this. I don't know if it was a fluke. I'll keep you guys posted. So this is just an assortment of peppers. A lot of jalapenos, some sweet. This is courbachi, so delicious. The courbachis are amazing. This is the bell pepper. I didn't prune it right. You really want to prune them. Like if you've got this V here, right here, you really want to prune them like about a ½ inch from that elbow. I didn't do that. I did on this one. But they're still coming back. You see, it's going to get new growth, and just some of this old stuff just looks really bad, but it comes back. So all of them came back. There we go. Aphids. Let's run the experiment. I'm spraying, what is today, the 11th, 12th? I'm going to spray. Check the next video. I'll give you guys an update if this works when we do our cleanup, because I do see some. I haven't sprayed these in well over a week and a half. It is aphid season, so this is when they're going to be a problem. This pepper's ready. This is a banana cayenne. That one came in small. All right, the aloe hates the towers, so I will be switching. This one's doing pretty good. Actually, that one's doing really good. This one's not. I think they don't like the wet roots. Also, do you see how tiny this plant is and it's putting off a flower? Take that off. You're just gonna get a tiny pepper. Yeah, look at these. This is a jalapeno, small jalapeno. All right, doing good. These aloes are doing okay. I have more starts here. I've been running some cilantro sprouting because a lot of you guys have issues sprouting your cilantro. This is covered because there's other things trying to germinate in there. But these were sprouted, I heavily seed. I'll make a whole video on this. These were sprouted with no heat lamp. These were sprouted with the heat lamp. Now they're both on a heat lamp. These are growing faster, but these had better germination. Maybe, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, no, maybe about the same now. Really what I decided, they were all shorter originally. These have just sprouted a little bit higher since being on the heat mat. So it's almost like they got a little bit leggier not being on the heat mat. These already have their first real leaves. These do not. So definitely the heat mat got these to be squattier, which I believe is a stronger plant than one that's taller. So yeah, but there's that. Didn't seem to make any difference. The real issue is not doing enough seeds, and that'll solve. So I'll make another video on that. All right, this is my harvest wall. I'll be talking about this in the future. This is a hydroponic system, completely different, whole different conversation, but I'm super excited about it. This is where I plan to grow my aloe and the things that don't love the towers. This also can handle things a little bit differently indoors, and I'll talk about that on another video. Things like a cucumber is going to have more success on something like this than the towers indoors. Again, I'll explain why in another video and share more with you guys, but that's the newest toy. These are the lights to it. There are my mushrooms. Ooh, we've got chestnuts. And we have lion's mane. These are oyster, and I just harvested those actually. So doing good. I'm gonna make lots of things with those soon. All right, so for the chores, you'll see on the next video, these 3 towers are definitely being consolidated, cleaned up. I have another tower in the garage I'm gonna put together. That one I actually got the high density pump for, and I'm gonna be making it 9 layers high and growing all those Ebook. It'll just be Ebook cabbage. I planted enough to have a whole tower, 9 levels high. So super excited about that. Those will just grow outside. They don't need to be moved into the garage. They can handle a light frost if we get an early frost. All right, these are a mess. So again, kind of that end of year where things need to go, but things also are not quite done. Okra. I have really enjoyed the okra. I did 5 plants this year. I'm definitely gonna do about 15 next year. I wasn't sure, you know, they can be a tree and they can be beefy and a lot to manage. They've been totally fine. I heard they were kind of a nightmare, and I have not experienced that at all. It may be hard to get them out, but I plan to just saw it down there and then cut the roots, because they have a tap root is the reason they can be a problem. And then just take the tower apart. You're gonna have to take your tower apart to get those out. This one got too big, so we will let that create seeds for us. So we have hydroponic adapted seeds for next year. But the children have got, I wasn't sure how much we would eat, because, you know, okra, I don't fry a lot of food, and that's how most people eat them. But I'm making these okra quesadillas for the children, and they love them. I have snacking peppers doing great. My shishito peppers here are like a giant bush. Huge, lots of peppers need to come off on that. These, I'll harvest everything and then just give them a little haircut. And I'm gonna overwinter them, I think, in the garage. I don't know, haven't decided. I have enough towers to do that, so I probably will. Up here I have eggplant, and it is fruiting now. So these good things, one of these towers will get cleaned. This stuff will get consolidated to one tower, but we're not quite done with things here. Those towers over there are definitely finished, except for a few things. These are not. This is kind of a mixture, so I'm just waiting. I don't think the watermelon are gonna make it. All the leaves died off, so good sign they're not gonna make it. This eggplant will get moved. It's not doing great here, nor is that one. The eggplant, just a terrible year for him. I got some zucchini. This plant looks strong still. Believe it or not, that looks like a strong plant. They just need to be cleaned up. They got a little bit entangled. Oh, it's out of water. That's why. I was like, why are they drooping? It's out of water. You can hear it. So clean that up. Look at this. So that and all of these are my jelly melons, and they're just not quite ready. I've been waiting for them to ripen, and they are just not there yet. Taking quite a bit of time to ripen. Another eggplant that's done terrible. This one gave me a few. So I'm gonna move all the eggplants today. As soon as I clean out a tower, I'm gonna move them all, give them a nice haircut for any damage that they have, and put them in a nice sunny spot and see if we just can't get something off of them before the end of the season. Jelly melons, so many jelly melons. They're everywhere. There is cucumber in here. The vine is dead. So the cucumber is definitely needing to be harvested. Look at all of these jelly melon. There's so many. So yeah, jelly melon, like the towers. That's probably the most prolific thing I grew. Over here, I just harvested bell peppers off of this. This is a small bell pepper plant. That'll get moved to a new tower and get cleaned up. All these pepper plants will. This side, I have more okra, some broccoli, cauliflower that just doesn't seem to want to produce. It just isn't. I've had that happen a couple of times. I don't know why. Sometimes I get amazing things, sometimes I don't. Probably have too many things on this tower. Next year I'm gonna do things a little bit differently and not jam things up so much. Remind me of that next year, please, because I hate to not fill every grow port. But there's lots of pepper plants on here, so I'm probably gonna just take all the pepper plants off of all these towers, all the eggplant, clean one of these three, get them all set up in there, and that'll just be peppers and eggplants, and then move them into the garage, and I will take out the eggplant before they go into the garage and put something like lettuce or in those, or something fast growing in those, and keep the peppers going. So yeah, just overgrown mess. I mean, look at these guys. There has to be 50 jelly melons on here. Jelly melon is in the cucumber family. It's like a melon and a cucumber crossed. And you know they're ripe when they're super red or super yellow, like this one's getting there, but a little bit softer, and none of them are soft yet. And then we have another cucumber that's going to seed. That one is also ready. The vine's dead on these, so just waiting for it to turn yellow. Put this one out of here. My mushroom tent, my mushroom tower here is done. It hasn't produced mushrooms, maybe a couple of little ones. There's a little pink one over here, but it's done. Yeah, there's a little pink one down there. So that needs to be turned over. 'Tis the season to do work. These are my home towers. These I'm turning over pretty consistently. I'm eating off of these every day. This is the majority of our food is coming off of these, because as I showed you over there, I've got herbs, which you don't eat off of daily. I've got squash coming in and green beans and cucumbers. Those are things that you're not eating all the time. So I'll be eating the kale and the parsley over there. But here is basically the salad bar. And these are the home towers. And I've just been super happy with these. Caterpillars have been the main issue here. I'll spray for those again tonight since it is the season. But I've done huge harvests of turnips and all sorts of things. So let's take a closer look. All right, so we have beautiful bell peppers. These are a rainbow bell pepper. They come in smaller. They're actually a smaller pepper, and they'll change colors. This is also one. No idea what that one is. Some sort of pepper. Just peppers. I don't even know what varieties. And so they are all doing really good. Look really strong. Oh, look at these. I wish I would have labeled them, because I have no idea what they are. But this is tarragon. I've got chives and green onions, celery, dill is doing great. Some baby greens. I actually harvested, there were some bigger greens on here. Some of these babies were tucked behind it. You can see where I harvested, and look what it did. It stressed it, and they're going to flower. This is why I say harvest the whole thing. When you cut them and let them regrow, they just, some will bolt. They just don't look great to me. So we'll replace that tonight. Matter of fact, I'm just going to take that out so I remember. Compost that. I have endive that has fallen into the tower here too far. There we go. Just lift that up a little bit. Arugula, lots of celery. I broke some celery apart, and so it's drooping, but it's regrowing back. This is lemon balm. I've been harvesting a ton of herbs off of this. Some bok choys that got a little bit of chicken damage and a little bit of caterpillar damage, but they're fine. They're coming back. We have thyme, baby lettuce, parsley, sweet marjoram, catnip, just lots and lots of herbs. This is sweet marjoram that I harvested off of, and it's a little bit stressed. Sometimes plants can handle herbs when you cut them all the way back and let them regrow. I have found sweet marjoram doesn't like that, just a heads up. So with sweet marjoram, it's best to leave about 1/3 of the plant and just take off the tips. Thyme is the same too. It doesn't really like to be completely hacked back. If you can just do 1/3 of the time at a time, it's better. Some lettuce going to seed. This is a beautiful lettuce that I wanted to collect hydroponic adapted seeds from. Over here we have turnips and baby cauliflower starting to take shape. See, it's making its cauliflower head. That's what we want to see. Same with these. They're finally starting. Yep, same with this one here. So we're going to get some cauliflower really soon, the next couple of weeks. We have lots of turnips. We have celery, parsley. This tower is definitely more mature than the other home tower. So everything looks a little bit more mature. You know, you're going to get leaves that aren't as pretty, more damage because it's had more time to get exposed to critters. Lots of turnips. I harvested a bunch of turnips off of here already. Got endive on here, beets. All right, so I'm driving on my little tiny back road here. Otherwise, I would not be on the phone, but I'm only going 15. So, final thoughts. I have to go pick up my child, and this is our season right now. And I wanted to show you the towers right now because they are kind of a mess. Like, I'm busy. We haven't quite adjusted to our new schedule. So like I'm going to the gym in the morning and then at night, and we're all over the place. And so just learning our new systems for the year. And I just haven't been in the mood to invest a lot of time in my towers. But what hopefully you could see is that how quickly they turn around. So, and then they are beautiful again. And there is a natural cycle to plants. Some things just have to go to the end and burn out, and that looks messy until it's done. So we just have to deal with those times. Many plants can be saved and consolidated. So if you want to watch that video where I do the chores, make sure to subscribe. It'll be the next one that comes out. And then on my home towers, you know, one thing I didn't point out was the tower that I said was younger. That tower isn't really younger. I actually started those towers about the same time, but it has fast turnover foods on it. So I've been pulling things out, putting things in. And so it has a lot of younger things on it. The one next to it had turnips and cauliflower and then some fast turnover things. But the majority of it was the cauliflower and bok choys and turnips. Those things take longer. So of course they're going to have brown leaves and they're going to have caterpillar damage if I don't catch the caterpillars in time. And it just look a little bit more mature. But those plants are amazing. We're coming to the fruiting stage. And I hope that paints a picture of how you can set up your towers. If you only have one, I would do it like my home tower that's a little bit younger, where the majority of it is fast turnover foods. Those are foods I'm taking out, eating, and putting new ones back in, or I'm harvesting the whole thing or a lot of it, like I do a lot with those herbs. So they're not just growing and I'm only using a little pinch of them. I'm actually taking huge handfuls of those herbs weekly to use in our foods, making tinctures to put away for the winter, things like that. And yeah, and there's one more question I've been getting is, when do you move them into the garage? So I have found if it's anything warm weather, you need to know what that plant can tolerate. Like, is it going to get stunted below 45 degrees? Obviously a frost is going to kill a pepper plant, but they don't like to be below about 45 degrees. So when our temperatures are consistently below 45 at night, I will move the pepper plants into the garage for the season. Squash, they're not going to like any cold temperatures at all. And then the time change. When the time changes, we lose daylight hours, and that is going to change how fast things grow. Things are going to slow down significantly during that time. So anything I want to continue to produce pretty quickly will need to go into the garage and under artificial light. And then there's some, I am actually going to do a pop-up greenhouse. If you guys want to see that, just very inexpensive. And I'm going to put 3 or 4 towers in the greenhouse that are cool weather crops, like the Ebook cabbage. Those can handle a frost and can tolerate cold weather. Kale can tolerate cold weather. So I'm going to see if I can't grow throughout the whole winter in the greenhouses. It'll be an experiment. I don't know. It'll depend on our winter this year, how cold it gets. Ideally, if you do that, you want your plants, kind of like I mentioned with the green beans, you want the majority of the growing to happen before the winter, because once we hit that daylight savings time and we have less sun and cooler temperatures, things aren't going to be growing. And most people who are growing in a greenhouse throughout the winter, they're not actually growing food. They are just keeping the food they have established alive and harvesting off of it until the springs. And it might grow a little bit if you have a super warm winter. That can affect things and there can be some growth, but the majority of winter gardens are just plants that are mature, and you're just going to be coming and taking some leaves off of them so you have a fresh harvest when you want that. So I don't know, I'll be new to greenhouse gardening in my zone, but I definitely want to give it a try. Thanks for joining me on the little garden tour. I'll see you guys on the next video.